Cain is dead. Even though his death has been denied by the elven witch cults, the god of battle and bloodshed, once worshipped widely across the elven races in the ancient times, has been dead for centuries. Whilst the diverse races of elves have turned their prayers to newer gods, the witch cults of Ulgu, the daughters of Cain, have kept the worship of the bloodied hand god. Though he is absent, the daughters believe that his hollow heart, his last remains, will beat like a ringing bell one day if enough blood is offered up to him. As it is believed, this eventual bloodied heart will form a new body for Cain and allow the blood god to walk amongst his loyal daughters. Yet, unpronounced to the daughters, their sacrifices go not to Cain, but to their matriarch, the Shadow Queen of the witch cults herself, Morathi. Like the gods of the mortal realms, Morathi is an ancient soul from a time long before the creation of the cosmic realities. She walked among the elves, mothered a child, and too offered up the blood of her victims to the elven war god. Unlike the gods, though, who have escaped the destruction of the later named war that was, Morathi did not find herself awakened within a new world. At least, not one that many would want to find themselves in. In the ancient times, as the ruinous powers brought the world that was to its end, Slaanesh, the chaos god of excess and pleasure, had went off to devour the elven race as the world drew near its final hours. She gorged upon the elven race as if they were sweetened grapes, grasping and tossing the elves into her maw of ruined, rotten teeth in such numbers that it was uncountable. Morathi was one of these unlucky souls that was caught by the goddess's mad hunger. When her consciousness eventually returned, Morathi would find herself within a wall of shadow and chilling darkness. A world in which was blanketed in near-permanent darkness, with its sun barely visible against its ocean of black coal clouds. Morathi's world collapsed on her when she eventually found her reflection. Instead of a figure of elven perfection, she instead found a warped beast, a monstrous winged serpent that perverted the elven form. Not only a caricature, but a reminder of the beast whom Morathi was once a prisoner to. Though the sorceress would be able to return to her original image in due time, it was nothing more than a disguise. Despite all her effort, she could never be rid of her beastly form. All she could do is hide behind a mirage that can break and reveal to all her serpentine form if she is not careful. This mask helped her though when her path eventually crossed that of her son, Milarion, and later the God King himself, Sigmar. Like others who had joined Sigmar's growing pantheon of gods, Morathi agreed to join the God King to establish the new order across the young worlds. Alongside Sigmar and her son, the two travelled across the mortal realms to find others of their kind, elves who had survived the destruction of the old world as they did. Yet the elves they were able to find were far too few. Too many were devoured by Slaanesh following the apocalypse of their native home. Whilst Morathi and Milarion were not fully trusted within the pantheon because of their past, the sorceress's son had found a common cause with younger elven gods who later joined the order. His mother, for the most part, was shadowed by the conquests and labours of other gods, leaving her to feel like an outsider within an order that sought unification. She attempted to charm the God King to her sway, but he merely brushed her aside offhandedly. The death god Nagash was insulted when the elven sorceress tried to do the same upon him. Unlike Sigmar, Nagash saw through the elf's disguise and struck her down. Morathi trembled with an unbearable black rage as she lifted herself from the dirt. Her leathered wings ripped up from her back, and her elven form took to that of a serpentine beast. She bared her fangs, unsheathed her claws, her mesh of snake hair hissing viciously as she stared down the death god. As she towered, Morathi unleashed a roar. Her anger she kept hidden for too long finally unleashed like a broken dam. The sorceress' fury cooled as the gods cowered from her. A bitter tear trickled down her reddened cheek, and she fled. For a time, the sorceress hid herself away from the gods. Morathi brooded, while her followers prayed for the return of the god to whom they were not aware had been dead for centuries. Of what could have been a destiny of isolation and eventual self-destruction, Morathi's son would return to her with a proposition. He, along with the other elven gods, had set up a trap to lure the thirsting goddess and to free the lost elven souls within her belly. For this plan to work, they acquired the queen's knowledge of her time as Slaanesh's prisoner and how she escaped. Agreeing to join the trap, Morathi presented herself as bait for the Dark Prince. The mad god, like a lurking predatory cat, lunged for the freed prisoner. As a fly tangled within a web, Slaanesh struggled to free herself from the sudden cold of binding chains. As their prisoner, the elven gods took the opportunity to pluck the damned souls from She Who Thirsts. With these souls, they split them amongst themselves, to raise them within an image that each god thought proper. As a reward for her participation, Morathi was given a portion of these souls. The queen, like the others, brought the souls back to her realm and concocted a ritual that would revive the damned souls. In the dark dungeons of her temple, Morathi brewed a mixture of gore and dark magic within a vast black cauldron. Her lips spoke of dark, ancient magic that she only remembered from the lost world. In her trance, she mixed the freed souls within her brew of blood and dark, maddening magic. The mixture bubbled and popped like stew ready to be served. Shapes took form, and out of this brew came a new breed of elves. In one hand, the brew created a new sect of she-elves. These elven mistresses, who had either the lower portions of a serpent, or caped with bat-like wings, knelt to Morathi thankfully and proudly. Whereas the males, the skeletal beings that came out of the brew, prostrated to her as a vengeful goddess. Morathi's crave for power, of vengeance against those who had outcasted her once upon a time, twisted her mind. She announced that Cain spoke to her, whispering that he chose her to be his voice and pontiff over the ever-growing cult. To the masses, she proclaimed that the god demanded blood to create a new body for himself and walk amongst his daughters yet again, to lead them against the non-believers who had turned away from his rightful rule. With knives and religious zeal, the daughters travelled far and wide across the realms, slaughtering and offering up the blood of the slain to the waiting god. Yet, across these temples, as the daughters of Cain conduct their brew of gore as offerings to the bloody-handed god, Morathi power grows ever greater. As Sigmar and Nagash duel for supremacy for the deceased, Morathi waits for her time to reveal herself as a new goddess. A goddess of unquenching thirst, of power and vengeance. A goddess who will soar through the realms and be worshipped by mortals as their god queen.